Hey guys, welcome to the next level. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever it is. Instead of giving just a normal update video, I kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek. See, it's still looking like Skybeak Online is still a little away, and I didn't want to release it into the holiday season when everyone should be celebrating with their families and stuff. That being said, I still have a couple holiday videos I plan on doing for the year. I just wanted to give you an idea of what we've been working on for basically an entire year now. It hasn't been easy, and I'm not saying that what I'm showing you is finished yet. It's more of a proof of concept than anything, but I hope you enjoy it. As for other little updates, I'm streaming every Friday. We'll be there for the Game Awards as well. That's Thursday next week, and I hope you can be there for that. Yeah, I think that's about it. I don't want to spoil what I have for you next week or the week after. It's kind of like a little iffy, but I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out. Captain's Log number 2. This is it's my second Captain's Log. I've been imprisoned on a spaceship in the middle of what looks to be a video game level. I am running dangerously low in resources. I'm also running dangerously low in hope. I do not know the true identity of my captor or captors. I'm afraid that I might lose my grip on sanity soon.
Jeez, what's with all the dramatics? You sound like you're parodying something really old and overdone.
Ah! What are you supposed to be? Some kind of mutant mouse thing?
My therapist told me I have to be nicer to people, so I'm going to ignore that and just introduce myself. The name's Motzi.
Hi, Mitzi.
You heard me the first time. Another crack like that and I'll slap you stupid.
Hello guys, my name is Rudy. I guess you'll all hear from the ad too.
What ad? I didn't get an ad.
There was an ad on Porn TV that advertised the chance to live rent-free in a luxurious bachelor pad.
Did the ad say it was on a spaceship?
No, but it also told me not to ask any questions, so I decided not to ask any questions. Ooh, pizza!
No, it's mine!
Hello. There's more women here than I thought there would be. Well, I'm Neil, and I like to sleep in the nude, so just make sure you have a mental picture of my ass before then. Just so there's no surprise or anything.
Alright, it's like you're all in some kind of contest to see who could be the weirdest thing to pop in right now. I mean, straight up animal. That guy is an albino.
I'm Italian.
And, okay, well, you look normal.
You're only saying that because you haven't seen me without my pants on.
I find myself annoyed by how slutty you are. Oh, thank God. I mean, oh God, that must be my captors now.
Enjoying your stay, Blue Genocide?
All right, what's going on? Who are you guys?
We are the malignant misfits, Munch, Jack, and Yuki. We've abducted you, as you can probably tell.
Yeah, I think I got that far. Now tell me what you want already.
Well, you see, sir, as evil masterminds, we need to procure funding for our diabolical needs. But in this economy, finding a reliable source of passive income is quite a challenging feat.
Huh? You ain't just whistling Dixie.
Sure, but then we discovered an avenue of revenue more profitable and secure than investing in all the stocks in the world. YouTube.
Who told you that?
Do you see how much money people are making off YouTube? It's insane. I mean, the biggest guys on there right now just eat grilled food on camera and pretend to be interesting.
The three of us decided that if we were to make moolah by the bucketful, we'd need to produce YouTube videos centering around nerdy pop culture-y things. That's why we decided to pluck you out of your supple northern home. Your useless gaming knowledge is a veritable well of wealth just waiting to be tapped.
Yeah, why don't you tell my parents that?
Using marketing on various adult sites, we managed to curate the perfect cast of cartoon sidekicks to maximize algorithmic appeal and search engine optimization.
With you as the centerpiece of this operation, Blue Genocide, with the Skybeak as your base of operations, you will create our videos, you will finance our plans, and you'll help spread our reign of tyranny across the globe!
No.
Can you do that? I mean, I don't know what the block does to you. I mean, plan B, we could just kill him. No, there's like...
Well, if you don't, we'll kick you really hard in the kidney.
Okay, I'll do it. Lord knows my kidney's been through enough as it is.
That's right! You get started! Now go! In the name of evil!
Okay, guys, you heard the insane clown posse. Let's get to work on some videos.
Why do we have to help you? There doesn't seem to be any kind of comeuppance for the rest of us. We can just chill.
Well, if you don't, I'll kick you in the kidney.
I'm sold. Let's get to work.
And I know just the video to start with. Welcome to the next level and our show, Skybeak Online, where it's my only goal to entertain you with my autistic obsessions.
Wait a minute. Why are they here? They have their own free will. Who would tune into this?
Mots, we went over this in rehearsal. You can't degrade the people that choose to watch us.
Nah, wait a second. Maybe they're into that.
I know I am.
Oh, we're sharing our kinks with the audience? I really want to hold hands one day.
That's super fucked up, Rudy.
Rudy, I agree with Motzi. That was actually just like a terrible thing to say. You shouldn't have said that at all.
The entire World Wide Web. And you drag these people out here to help me.
I'm going to have to ask you to stop stalling and get on with the video.
Jeez, alright, Ben Stein.
Do it. Before I get up there and eat you.
Guys, we gotta get back to it or Garfield will eat us.
I am not a house cat.
Yeah, whatever, Felix. Anyways.
Let's have a dazzling development.
It was the late 80s, and life was great, as long as you weren't one of the following minorities. And if there was anyone benefiting from the economic boom of US capitalism in the 80s, guess what? It was a company from a foreign country. Go figure. Nintendo had actually set up shop in the previous 80s, those being the 1880s, as a Hanafuda card manufacturer. They did this for a while, alongside all kinds of crazy get-rich-quick schemes, like Disney merch, not Legos, and guns. Lots and lots and lots of guns. Yeah, okay, they're light guns. But in a dark alley, who's gonna see you pull that on someone and go, oh, I'm something of a Nintendo fan myself. I actually happen to prefer the rifle. No, you're gonna be like, have my money, dude. I'm just saying, America is like the king of guns. They'll ban anything besides guns. But even we got the Zapper. They even later changed the color because they were still scared people would think it was a gun. But you know what Japan got? A fucking revolver. The dog from Duck Hunt isn't going to be laughing for much longer. And look, I know, this is all stuff you've probably heard before on your favorite pasty white boy YouTube show.
Those who live in glass houses, Blue.
Joke's on you! I'm nobody's favorite anything. Well, this got Nintendo some success. It was pissing off Universal that really got them on the path of opening up a really cool museum that a certain Blue Genocide can't go to. Donkey Kong, an arcade game originally envisioned as a game based on Popeye, morphed more and more into another sort of knockoff altogether. Universal did try suing over this, but one John Kirby demonstrated that Universal themselves proved that the character was public domain not even 10 years prior to this in a big lawsuit over the 1976 remake of King Kong.
And Masahiro Sakurai himself repaid his service by naming his son after him.
Nintendo from that point onwards was unstoppable. I mean, they made a couple more arcade games, but then introduced the Japanese market to the Famicom, or Family Computer, in 1983. It was a pretty big success in its native land, but Nintendo struggled getting their foot in the door thanks to Atari shitting the bed. But partially due to dumbass peripherals convincing dumbass retail store managers the renamed Nintendo Entertainment System was a toy, and partially, but let's face it, much more likely, word of mouth on just how great Super Mario Bros. Really was.
今日も元気にマリオが走る走るピーチ姫を助けに行くぜ行くぜ今日も元気にマリオが走る今日も元気にジャンプ今日も元気にコインを探せ今日も進めよマリオキノコを通ってスーパーマリオだぜフラワーを通ってファイヤーマリオクリボーだノコノコだメットだ絶対倒せマリオはいつも元気で強い
So by 1988, they weren't just in the North American video game industry, they were the whole damn thing. It wasn't like this everywhere, mind you. Us North Americans sometimes forget to paint the whole picture here. In Europe, Nintendo had a much slower start and really never grasped the monopoly status that they did in the US. And the Japanese Famicom was starting to show its age thanks to competition still being strong in the East. But when Nintendo had basically brought the home market back from the dead in the US, they were allowed to do the most American thing imaginable and set up a monopoly. I'm talking about firm, supple grasp on third parties, preventing companies like Capcom or Konami from publishing their games on other home consoles for 5 years, threatening retail stores from carrying the competition. Listen, I'm skipping over a lot of the shady shit Nintendo pulled. I could go over how they tried to fight Blockbuster and their feud with Atari or Game Genie. And did they really see any punishment for this behavior? Yeah, they had to hand out $5 off coupons for Nintendo games.
This is like going to see Rocky 3, and after the huge success of The Underdog with Fallen for 2 films, he became Jeff Bezos or something. Jeez!
Well, our story is more about the company that finally gave Nintendo some competition, and that was Sega. The early history of Sega is a lot harder to parse than their competitors, since really the Sega that we become aware of in the 80s is an amalgamation of several small companies that were founded in the US and Japan between the 1940s and 60s. But by the end of the 70s, Sega's arcade industry began to boom. The arcade business was lucrative for Sega with consistent hits like Space Harrier, Afterburner, and Outrun. This hopefully sounds very familiar to you, as I just got finished explaining how Nintendo is basically doing the same thing, unless you were asleep. Unfortunately, the whole home video game industry thing was not Sega's bag, baby.
I'm telling you, baby, that's not mine.
The Sega Mark I launched first in 1983, on the exact same day as the Famicom, and while initially very successful and followed up with the Sega 1002, a redesigned version of the same hardware with a new cartridge shape, and even a personal computer variant somewhere in the middle, it hadn't had the lasting support the Famicom got. When you're trying to compete against Donkey Kong and Popeye with Congo Bongo and Flicky, you should see why that didn't work.
Babe, you're leaving me? But I showed you my Congo Bongo!
Sega tried to upgrade their machine, releasing what they called the Sega Mark III in Japan, which we know as the Master System, at the end of 1985. It was stronger than the Famicom this time, sure, and Sega was quickly learning from their mistakes. A rarity for them, believe me. But it wasn't Donkey Kong they were up against anymore. Now it was Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda, Punch-Out, and all the other great games from third parties. So they went back to the drawing board. It was now approaching the end of the 1980s, and the Genesis, Mega Drive everywhere else, and Sega's newest game console had not set the world on fire the way they had hoped. It wasn't the trash fire the Atari 7800 was, but being better than the 7800 just means that you didn't have your head in a noose. Sure, for the time, the Genesis was the strongest console on the market, as the NEC PC Engine, although capable of 16-bit graphics and giving Nintendo in Japan some real competition, it was still a console with an 8-bit CPU and was not truthfully 16-bit. This is what we scholars call, lying out your ass. The Super Famicom, the successor to the Nintendo Entertainment System / Famicom, was on its way aiming for a 1989 release. And while some good games were coming out soon, or were out for the Genesis, it wasn't enough. Alex Kidd, the current mascot of Sega, had utterly failed. Alex picked rock and Sega picked termination papers. Sega had to turn things around fast because Super Mario Bros. 3 had taken most of the hype away from the Sega Genesis. At this point, why would anyone buy Sega? Nintendo was going to have a stronger machine in a few years with more Mario. The fact of the matter was, Sega needed a killer app, and it needed it yesterday. The biggest problem here is obvious in hindsight. Nintendo had completely abandoned the arcade industry almost 5 years prior to this, while Sega's entire name was attached to their arcade hits. That's great for those who love Shinobi or Space Harrier, but these aren't the same kind of games Nintendo is making. Zelda or Mario could last a player hours, but a game of, say, Outrun lasts a couple minutes. Sega needed to learn the new industry and how to properly make games for it. In 1989, 25-year-old game designer Naota Oshima had begun work on conceptualizing a game he'd called Twin Stars. The concept had two twin boys inside a dream world where they would go up against a nightmare creature called 13. While this at first sounds completely unrelated to anything Blue Hedgehog related, it was the first spark. Higher-ups were intrigued by the concept, but not too enthused with the characters. Oshima was stuck. Around that same time, 24-year-old Yuji Naka was one of Sega's best programmers. He started working on a space-themed game called Metal Lancer, revealed in 2016. It was cancelled because of the very strict Sega rule of cancel any games called Metal Lancer. His current project being given the boot, Naka was to send a list of game ideas he'd like to work on to his superior. While he most wanted to work on a racing game, it was his last suggestion that was chosen, quote, an action game to challenge Mario. Actually, the suggestion was make Nintendo eat dick, but Sega management knew what that meant. Oshima repeatedly was told by several others that there was only one person at Sega capable of such a task as programming a game like the one he had thought up, and that was Yuji Naka. Both of them had worked on the Phantasy Star games and were, at the time at least, fond of working with each other, and Naka was all for the challenge. Without getting too technical, the pitch made total sense for the Genesis. The hardware's biggest strength was its Motorola 68000 processor, which gave the Mega Drive a really fast CPU speed that could, if done right, stand out from the crowd of various Mario likes that had started appearing in all of the home consoles. Hell, even Sega was guilty of it with Alex Kidd, but this game would be something different. The project was being developed by a small group within Sega's CS R&D division, who later named themselves Sonic Team, starring a rabbit character. It made sense to use an animal that could represent speed, and at first, it could grab and throw objects with its ears. Naka was not happy with this, as he wanted to keep the controls simple so players could grasp them quickly. This was about when Hirokazu Yasuhara had joined the team. His planned departure to the US to join the new Sega Technical Institute was delayed by the First Gulf War, and agreed that this quirky rabbit game just wasn't working out. Naka asked everyone to cough up any ideas they were keeping quiet about a new ability to give the character, since the throwing objects mechanic just wasn't working. But when nobody had anything to offer, Naka decided to let everyone play with his balls.
That's why I got banned from the YMCA.
Nobody asked!
Okay, really, it was somersault jumping and a similar ability on the ground. Oshima wasn't sure about this, but it did seem to solve the problem while creating another. The rapid design just didn't make sense anymore.
Remember that classic Looney Tunes shorts where Bugs Bunny does a spin dash and rips Yosemite Sam's skin off?
No. That's probably because I don't remember any Looney Tunes short, past the one where Daffy said my full name and home address on TV when I was 9.
For the second time, the game was without a character the team was happy with. While a few character designs were considered for the game, it made the most sense to have an animal who could roll into a ball, such as a hedgehog or armadillo. While other ideas were considered, a fat man in pajamas and a hedgehog were the most likely candidates. It gets a little hazy about who the other considered characters were, as it seems both the team's concepts for what their game would be gets mixed up with the company-wide competition. No matter what happened, it seems that the idea for a hedgehog character had been floating around Sega as a whole, as Yasushi Yamaguchi, who would later work on Sonic 2 and CD, had independently come up with a hedgehog design himself. According to Oshima himself, he went on a trip to New York, set up in Central Park, and had people pick between a hedgehog, the fat guy, and a dog. And the fat guy and the hedgehog especially were the most popular. This gave Oshima hope that his character could appeal to anyone. According to Sega of America, it was between a hedgehog and a chicken. Naka apparently suggested a panda at some point due to his love of Miyazaki's Miyazaki films. Sonic was eventually the team's choice, then they entered the Hedgehog in the competition to become the mascot of Sega. Of 200 entries, Sonic was one of 8 finalists and won overall, partially due to Sonic Team having more to show off than the others. Although there were some different choices for the name. At this stage in development, the game seemed to be going by the name Wonder Dream, as provided by the second pitch document provided by Oshima not that long ago. I can infer that this design document, which we sadly don't have a lot from, comes from around April 1990. But what we do know is that the player character had a move called Wonder Hedgehog, so I think this must come after Naka's involvement and after the rabbit. That makes the most sense to me, at least. It seems that regardless of where this document comes from in the development timeline, the name for the hedgehog took a while to come to life. For the longest time, Mr. Needlemouse was cited as the original name of the blue hedgehog, something that turned out to be a simple mistranslation, the original work in progress name being Mr. Hedgehog. They did play around with working off the Japanese word of Kosoku, meaning speed of light, trying to make a name out of that, and later Ryasupai and even LS, but they eventually settled on Sonic. The design seemed to come along quicker. His design emulates classic Golden Age animation, like Mickey Mouse or Felix the Cat. Blue was chosen to be his main color to represent Sega, as well as to mean something personal to Oshima, symbolizing to him that the open sky is blue forever. His boots, yes, their boots, were based on Michael Jackson's outfit from the Bad album, with the colors of said boots representing the most popular character in the world, Santa Claus. His attitude was later described to be similar to future President Bill Clinton, since the team hoped the game would find most success in North America. With the project finally fully greenlit in April 1990, it wasn't long before the team tried to start some world building.
You think any of the Sega staff had a vision of the future, saw Ken Penders, and woke up in a cold sweat?
How the hell do you know who Ken Penders is? You don't even know who Vector is.
You know, this series has spawned some terrible crap. You guys aren't the only ones who see it. I've seen shit that'll turn your skin white.
A lot of the things in Oshima's original Twin Star pitch carried on into Sonic's world, with him entering this world of dreams to save the other new addition, Madonna, Sonic's incredibly attractive human girlfriend, clearly modeled after Jessica Rabbit from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Madonna was given a big no from Sega of America. Objections came across almost immediately, and while there are some conflicting stories about who got rid of her, of course Sega of America, especially the quote-unquote mother of Sonic, Madeline Schroeder, claims she was the one that did it.
Bitch!
But I'm more inclined to believe Sonic Team, saying they took her out to remove any easy comparisons to Princess Peach. I think it's a shame that Madonna was removed. Maybe a couple of things changed, like being more than a damsel, but honestly, Who Framed Roger Rabbit is one of my favorite films of all time. I do think this could have worked. It's also just funny how history repeats itself. But either way, it seems Madonna was removed around the same time the Nightmare plot was. The first time Sonic was shown to the public, it was using this draft. This was the famous Tokyo Toy Show demo, something that has been sought after for years after Naka claimed it went missing sometime between 1990 and the mid-2000s. And we can see one of the enemies from the aforementioned concept art here, making me believe that this concept was still in use, at least up until the end of June 1990. I think it's safe to say very little had been done at this time. What this means as well to me is that this famous 1990 Tokyo Toy Show prototype was in fact an auto demo. Naka has claimed it was playable, but there's not too much concrete evidence of this. If they hadn't even figured out the game design at this point, this demo, which was shown in very little amounts and was short and secretive, and with Sega using auto demos again in the near future, I think it's safe to say this demo was in fact a very short bit of Sonic running around in the early Green Hill Zone and ending, playable or not. To reiterate, this demo was more than likely just rushed out to show the press that Sega had something to compete with the Super Famicom, or was actually made to pitch Sonic to Sega executives and was reused for the toy show. Very little has surfaced in the 35 years since this event. A couple screenshots, rare pictures from the event, and a corner shot of it for a grand total of 3 whole seconds. There's honestly a lot we can learn from this build that at the moment is just lost to time. We have some concept art of Sonic from what I assume was after this period, of Sonic and his bandmates. See, originally Sonic had a cast of animal friends, not unlike the small animals that are inside Badniks in the final game, but Sonic-sized, in a band with Sonic as the lead singer, with such members as Max Monkey, Mock the Rabbit, Sharps the Parakeet, and finally Vector the Crocodile. the only one of these characters that ever got a second chance. At some point, the plans for these characters were dropped, which is usually credited to Sega of America, and the animated sound test involving the band was dropped, which made room for the iconic Sega chant that you hear in the final game. Fun in quotations fact, Oshima said that he was heartbroken that the breakdancing animation he had made for the sound test was cut. That's not fun at all, is it? We all know Oshima, Naka, and Yashihara, but that's far from all the original Sonic team. Gina Ishiwatari Sukahara would be responsible for the Green Hill Zone. While Oshima was the one conveying his concept drawings for the stages, said to have been inspired by Japanese artist Aizen Suzuki, he admitted that it was difficult to convey what he wanted to Sukahara and had to redo it several times. Naka has actually joked that she worked harder than anyone else, and I mean, it clearly paid off. There aren't exactly a lot of video game levels more iconic than the Green Hill Zone, but how many of you, as of today, didn't even know her name? There's also Riko Kodama, who was another Phantasy Star alumni who helped bring the game to life, and did the pixel art for both Labyrinth and Starlight Zone. She was important for many reasons to Sega in general, being attached to Phantasy Star, the lead on Skies of Arcadia, and so much more. But she sadly passed away in 2022. It's very much likely these two women did a lot more than what they're credited with here. No other pixel artist is credited, and here's the reason a lot of this is somewhat guesswork. A lot of people credited at the end of Sonic 1 had to go by pseudonyms. This was a common tactic in Japan so that game developers wouldn't be poached by rival companies. And you'd think that with a game like this, we would know everyone attached, but the fact is, we don't. For example, the special thanks at the end of the game, we know that Fujio Minagishi was the one who had connections to get Masato Nakamura attached to the project, and we'll get to the music section in a second here, but we have no idea who Papa is. It's speculated that there was two different Sega employees that both used that pseudonym, but isn't it wild that we still don't know who did what for a game so important nearly 35 years later? And while all this was going on, from the beginning, Masato Nakamura was chosen to compose the music for Sonic. Well, as a North American, I'm not familiar with his non-Sonic music. In Japan, he's part of a major pop band, Dreams Come True, who in 1990 were just starting to become well known. Nakamura set out to make a score not like a game, but rather like a film. Hiroshi Kubota was the one who would convert Nakamura's music to play on the Genesis, and Yukifumi Makino would be responsible for the sound effects of the game, like the Chaos Emerald jingle and the drowning theme. And finally, Keisuke Sukahara was the one who recorded the famous Sega chant. And Akira Watanabe did the Japanese cover art, basing it partially off the logos used at the Live Under the Sky Jazz Festival, which was held in Japan between 1977 and 1992. Sega of America really wanted to change things about the game to have it appeal to the North American market, and Japan was clearly not happy with the decision Sega of America came up with. But Tom Kalinske was allowed to do with what he wanted, like changing the art, packing the game with the Genesis, and bringing the price of the console down to better compete with Nintendo. Greg Ray would be responsible for the new North American box art, and with all of this in place, the game was shaping up to be something truly unique. The game would end up being released on June 23rd of 1991, or, well, that's the official date. Many people report that they had picked up the game as early as a week before that, and what you really need to understand about game releases back then is that they would be shipped out and were just put out when the stores got them. The 23rd is just the official date in the record books. Regardless, I think it was a pretty big win for autism. When we come back after a short break, we'll cover the story mechanics.